He approached Irina with kindness and asked, "Irina, are you okay? What happened?" Irina, trying to calm down and fight back tears, told him about the chance encounter with the baby on the street and how she couldn't leave the child without help. Oleg listened attentively and said, "All right, we'll sort out this situation. In the meantime, you can keep the baby with you. I'll think about the best course of action." Artem and Irina gratefully looked at Oleg, feeling relieved and supported. They understood that they could resolve this situation together and preserve the friendship they found in each other. Offensive words were directed at the friend, but he rephrased them. "Are you out of your mind, Alexievich, losing your temper like that?" "Calm down," said the company owner. "I understand your concern. It's a child, not a weapon of mass destruction. Have some respect, for heaven's sake. I myself lost my wife and little daughter in a car accident, and I would give anything to hold my baby girl in my arms again. Children are a miracle. You're not married yet, so you can't understand the joy of being a parent." The young mother had nowhere to put the baby. "So what? She's making an effort, not sitting idle. She came to work." Dennis also felt uneasy and whispered an apology for his rudeness. Hating Irina for putting him in an idiotic position, the partners also looked disapprovingly at him, agreeing with their colleague. "Oleg Romanovich, this is not my child. He is, of course, adorable, but I found him on the street. He was lying in a box, unwanted by anyone, abandoned by his parents. Can you imagine?" Irina explained the details of finding the child to those present. Tears welled up in Oleg's eyes as he listened to her story. He promised that he would use his connections to help her find the baby's parents. After the negotiations, he called Dennis for a conversation and announced that he was transferring him to a branch of the company. Dennis knew what that meant. He was being demoted, sidelined. Oleg had assessed the employee's abilities and decided that he didn't belong in the main office. Here, he only stirred up intrigue, benefiting only himself without focusing on the work. Moreover, the owner didn't like dealing too often with such a sensitive person. As promised, Oleg also found the baby's parents, whom they had already named Venetka. The boy's mother expressed remorse for her actions, but refused to take custody of her son. She had just turned 18 and wasn't ready to be a mother, so she parted ways with the child easily. "I want to adopt him," Irina firmly declared. "Artem, I don't care what happens. I'm ready for the difficulties. We can't send him to an orphanage. He's just a tiny baby. I'll raise him, give him the best life that I can with you," the young man said seriously. "We've liked each other for a long time. I can even say that I love you. So why wait? Let's get married and become Vanya's parents," Irina shouted and threw herself into his arms. "You're such a good person." The couple's wedding was modest, but they were content. Oleg, upon learning about the young couple's bold decision, rewarded them with a substantial bonus to support their new family, offered Irina a job in the office, and gave Artem a position in personal security. There, the young man could earn a higher salary to support their family. Oleg praised the couple for their actions and wished them good luck. Oleg often donated funds to support orphanages and shelters, hoping that Irina and Artem would live a happy life and raise Vanechka to be a good person. If you enjoyed the story, please support me with a thumbs up button. and to stay updated on the release of new interesting stories, click the notification bell. Arena was still open. Have a great day. Thinking that people in the team were united by a common goal and should always help each other. Based on these considerations, without thinking, she decided to. One of the managers, who reported news to Dennis Alakushin, decided to open her eyes to the unpleasant truth. He had a terrible mess under his desk, always full of trash. Can you imagine? The girl was fearlessly talking, despite having a trash bin right in front of her. He's supposed to be a big shot, a boss, and he can't even wipe his shoe on the doormat before entering the office. The sand from his shoes leaves a mark, for heaven's sake. He pours his unfinished coffee into the office plant, and it's withering because of that. But it's just not right. The manager, in response to Arena's complaints, only smiled and immediately rushed to Dennis' office to report everything to him. Look at this scoundrel, a country bumpkin who came from who knows where, he said, not even refraining from making derogatory remarks. She dares to speak ill of us. Our boss was furious with the employee and would have fired her right away. But there would be no one to maintain cleanliness. She's in charge of important negotiations. Oleg, the owner of the company, will also be present, so there's no need to rush. Let her work a little longer, and then Dennis will deal with it. Meanwhile, Arena continued to diligently perform her duties, radiating positivity. Despite her friendly remarks, the office workers didn't appreciate her much. They always had sour faces and didn't hurry to smile in return. The only close friend with whom Arena could talk without hesitation and enjoy the conversation was the security guard at the entrance, Artem. Recently discharged from the army, he joined the security team. He was paid well, and working here offered him opportunities for promotion for good service. Oh, Arena, I haven't enjoyed talking to someone like this in a long time, the guy said when they had reached a level of trust where they could discuss personal matters. Ever since my fiancé didn't wait for me in the army and cheated on me with my best friend, I've been wary of women. Can you imagine? How could she do that? It's just unfair, the knave girl exclaimed. Both of them lied to me until the very end. The whole family and neighbors knew already, and yet they had the audacity to deny it. Well, it's all in the past now, Artem consoled his friend, gently patting her hand. It had to happen that way. You'll find your happiness with someone else. Maybe I should have married my fiancé and missed out on true love. Perhaps you're quite the romantic, he added with a smile. The friendship between the two young people went beyond working relationships. They often went for walks in the park, sat in cafes, or watched movies together in the theater. Arena was delighted to have found a close friend since her days in the orphanage, where she could freely socialize with peers. Artem was kind and reliable, and that captivated her. When the day of the important negotiations arrived, causing the entire office to be on edge, Arena rushed to work in a panic. The problem was that she was running a little late. She ran through the alleys, trying to take a shortcut when she suddenly heard a child's cry, sounding like a meow. She noticed a box and inside was a baby in diapers, just a few weeks old. Arena didn't have time to investigate, but she couldn't leave the baby to certain danger in the middle of the street. Holding the baby in her arms, she ran to the office. Artem, seeing his friend at the entrance with a baby in her arms, was stunned. "Where did you get that?" but we'll figure it out later. For now, you can bring the baby to your place. I'll change into my uniform to show everyone that I'm at my post, and I'll be right back," she pleaded with a pleading look, rocking the baby, who, as luck would have it, started crying. "Hush, little one, hush. Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. I guess you must be hungry," Artem said. At that moment, Dennis entered the building, followed by Oleg and the partners for the negotiations, who were already waiting upstairs in the conference room. The department head was furious at the noise and Irina's tardiness. She had brought a baby to work on this crucial day for the company. "What on earth is this?" he asked, standing next to the terrified girl. She just dumbfoundedly opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. "And is it worth going into lengthy explanations? This is beyond all bounds." The man raised his voice. "Not only were you late, but you also brought a baby. How? I ask you, do you see any other employees with infants? Why do you allow this to happen? You're so young, you must have had your fun. You didn't think with your head, and now you're creating problems for others. I'll fire you without severance pay." Artem wanted to intervene and give the enraged Dennis a piece of his mind, but Oleg stepped in. 21 years ago, Irina was only 21 years old. Life forced her to provide for herself at such a young age. It was difficult for her to find a job, so she ended up being hired as a janitor. The work was hard and demanding, but she had no other choice. To support herself, she had to work long hours. No one could have predicted how Irina's fate would unfold. She was the daughter of wealthy people, business owners, but fate was not kind to her. A tragic accident shattered her happy family. They drove into the fog for an important meeting, and the driver lost control due to poor visibility on the slippery road. Another car veered into their lane. Irina narrowly escaped death because her parents didn't take her with them, leaving her at daycare. There were no relatives around until the end of the day, and the little girl was sent to an orphanage. She spent 3 years there, yearning for her vanished parents. Irina often thought that she was unlucky to end up in such a family. She dreamed of being the most well-mannered and charming child. She would have been better off staying under the state's care until the age of 18 than being taken by the family that decided to adopt her. The adoptive parents already had 2 children and lived in a remote village. The conditions Irina encountered were unfamiliar to her. The couple did not consider it their duty to take care of unfortunate orphans. They took the girl in to be considered a large family and receive various benefits and privileges. Irina was shocked by how irresponsible her adoptive parents turned out to be. They didn't work anywhere and didn't try to find jobs, relying on the government. Disorder and an unpleasant smell prevailed in the house, and everyone was unkempt. Clothes were rarely washed, and everyone went around in a dirty state. The garden was neglected, and water and electricity were conserved in the house. As a result, things were dirty and always smelled. They only occasionally cleaned the house when a social worker came to check the living conditions of Irina's family. Irina had to remain silent and engage in cleaning for several days to make everything look presentable. It was not easy for Irina to live in such conditions. She couldn't come to terms with being in such an irresponsible family. In the orphanage, everyone had their responsibilities and took care of themselves. Here, the girl often felt nauseous from the smells. Unlike her biological siblings, Irina received the least. She ate leftovers and wore clothes that had become too small. Even if sometimes they were boys' clothes, all the family members preferred to ignore her needs. The responsibilities of the untidy parents fell on the fragile shoulders of the girl. She alone had to maintain order, clean the muddy shoes after the garden, scrub the moldy tiles in the bathroom, mend torn clothes for the whole family, all while not slacking off and not complaining. Often, if Irina became stubborn, the guardians would punish her, but soon the girl got used to it and became submissive. She realized that it was the best tactic. She lived only with the hope that her life would completely change when she came of age. Irina planned to run away from her guardians. When the time came, she left for the city with a scandal. "Ungrateful girl, so you're going to run away," shouted her mother when she noticed that the girl was packing a bag in the evening, intending to escape. "Is this how you repay us for taking care of you, for giving you a roof over your head? You are not our parents, and I don't want to see you anymore. I'm leaving here once and for all. I'm an adult now and can decide my own life," she screamed and left. She had enough saved money to rent a small room from some grandmother. The rent for such conditions was too high, but she couldn't expect more. At first, Irina wandered around the city, offering her services. She didn't stay at any job for long because the collective in the big city wasn't happy to have another provincial person. Despite her efforts, she often quit jobs because the coworkers refused to accept her. The girl managed to find a job in a large office. Serious people worked there, each trying to outshine the other, considering themselves better than everyone else. There was no talk of any friendly connections. The atmosphere was competitive. The department head, Dennis, encouraged such behavior among employees. He believed that there was no need to be friends with colleagues and, on the contrary, they should compete for the best results. The man established a system of informants who reported all the news to him. He had a sensitive and self-absorbed nature. Therefore, he was most interested in how employees talked about him. If someone dared to say something negative or complain about an unfair decision by the boss, they would immediately be fired or demoted.